Good morning, folks, from Strategies in Light in beautiful San Diego, Greg.
Hey, nice weather out here. Getting after it.
Before we get to a friend of the show, Lilien from UL, who we had a great podcast last year at the Nailed Show. We're going to get to him 1 second before we do. You got to remember one thing, Greg. There's one call that does it all.
Bill Brown Sales.
That's right. Go to BillBrownSales.com. One call does it all. Bill Brown Sales, the leader in manufacturing rep.
Yeah, as far as components, they have everything.
And integrity, man. Leading in integrity, for sure.
Double leader.
Come on. So go to BillBrownSales.com. Adam Lilien.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Woo. So Adam, just quickly, those who are listening who don't know you, they need to know you right now. What is it that you do?
Let's see. I'm the Global Business Development Manager for Underwriter Laboratories, or UL, and I work in lighting. And the area that I'm responsible for is, in particular, Horizon 2 and 3, which is 2 to 5 years out. So my job is to understand where the lighting industry is going, so that UL can meet our clients' needs as the market develops.
Why do you call it Horizon 2 and 3, you said? What's Horizon 1 right now?
Horizon 1 is right now. Okay.
Is there a 4 or 5, or does it end at 3?
I think 2 to 5 years is about as far as we can think in this space.
Sure.
I think if one even looks at the developments over the past 5 years, you're probably lucky to understand what's going to happen 24 months from now.
I don't even think people know what happened.
That's a great point.
I mean, we're sitting in a major lighting show in 2020, and there's no one named Philip Sylvania or GE in this room.
Right.
And that, like, if you told people that 7 years ago, they would tell you you're crazy.
Right.
And so, I mean, to say where we are, what happened, Adam, in the last 10 years?
One thing to look at is the evolvement of lighting into many connected things and IoT technologies. So some of the companies that you'd expect to be here were full blown at CES. And if you walked into their booth, I didn't happen to go, but I heard from people who did. If you walked into their booths, there's a little bit of lighting, but there's a lot of technology. There's a lot of IoT, and the world is changing as we speak.
Why do lighting guys have this default setting that lighting is going to be the hub of the IoT? Like, lighting people actually are like, not only is it going to be the hub, it has to be the hub. And it's going to be us that develops it. I'm not so sure about that.
You're totally right, but if you've been in the lighting industry, let's say you've been in the lighting industry for 25 years as a career, and all of a sudden IoT comes up and it's 25 cents to put a chip in something and connect it to the internet, you're going to look at it from your place of comfort, which is lighting. I think the Googles, the Apples, the Amazons have changed that quite a bit. They're in lighting.
I've always said that IoT. So I in my career, which is 20 years in lighting, there was 2 previous control cycle boom busts. The first was like dual technology controls or something, like passive infrared with microphonic or ultrasonic. Then there was like the connected Incilium crowd that came through. And now, to me, I think that the IoT boom takes off is when the person that wants the information pays for the sensors. You understand what I mean?
The person who's commercializing the data.
Yeah, exactly. When it becomes valuable for its own sake, and there's no energy benefit payback to it that has to be added in. We just want the data. We'll give you the light for free.
To your point, when Google bought Nest, they didn't get into the thermostat business. They got in. They're just extending their data. They know how we search on the internet. Then they learned how we run us, and it was the beginning of this new trend that we're seeing. Depends. Is the internet a good thing? We've gained a lot from it, but we're also taking the hits for all the
leave something behind. So you can't make a change, Greg, and go from like, we're going to now have this and we're going to take all positives that we had from that, and we're going to incorporate them into this. No, you're leaving behind positives and negatives, and you're taking on a different situation. That's all
Right.
it is, right? So the lighting industry's left behind a lot of positives. The internet has changed the way humans interact with one another to the point where it's generationally unrecognizable between my life and my daughter's life.
Exactly.
Like, it's not even the same world. It's not even
Right.
like, it's not the world I grew up in, the world she's growing up in are fundamentally more different than any two generations in history, I think.
I totally agree, and it's going to get faster and faster and faster. It's not going to stop at this point. Your daughter's children will have an even greater gap between what they're experiencing and what you and your daughter are experiencing, I predict.
That's Horizon 3, 4, or 5 right there.
Exactly.
What is UL's primary goal, or why is UL in business?
We empower trust.
Okay.
If you look at our history of 125 years, which started at the Chicago Exposition, when there was an introduction of two things: electricity and light bulbs, or electric lighting, artificial lighting. A young underwriting engineer, insurance company underwriting, was sent to the exposition to determine if electricity and light bulbs are safe. And as you know, there was a huge debate at the time, AC versus DC power. There was a huge fight between Westinghouse and Tesla and Edison. And in fact, there was a fire at the exposition. Someone died. And there had been a raging debate up until that point, because as the country was electrifying and people were putting lights in, they hadn't discovered power yet for motors. But there was a big question, is what we're doing safe? 3 years after the exposition, William Merrill founded UL. Ever since, we've been in the business of assisting society in understanding and navigating the evolution of technology to enable trust to drive advancement of society's benefits.
So UL needs to get off its butt and start looking at the other types of products our society's created that are not actual pieces of equipment, but like, is Facebook safe? Like, is Instagram safe for humans? You know what I'm saying?
There's a major distinction in what you're saying.
Like, people need to go and say, you know what, someone needs to come out and say, like, this right away, needs to say whether or not this level of video game engagement, like the smartest people in America don't go to the moon. They make media programs,
right?
And they make video games, and they addict people to them, and they call it engagement.
And there's quite a bit of discussion in the marketplace for the types of societal changes that have happened because of things like Facebook and Twitter.
And like Instagram and Snapchat is a whole other level to that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it just keeps, like, it takes Facebook and puts it on steroids. We need these things. People need to come out and just say whether or not they're safe or not.
We'll define safe.
Like, teenagers should not use social media. Like, young teenage girls should absolutely not be allowed to be on social media. It's not healthy for them.
And as a parent, I respect your opinion about that.
Sure.
The next parent next to you would disagree and tell you.
That's why we need the UL to come out and say it's not safe. Like, we studied it, and we know that this is not a safe environment. Like, we need someone like a UL to say, yeah, you know what, we're not going to certify this social practice as being safe. We need that now. This augmented reality world we're going into.
I wonder if there'll be an equivalent of a UL to deal with the societal, psychological, social issues like that.
For sure. I was just talking to another mother this morning about similar issues.
Because you can relate this to lighting, and which is what we want to do. But when we talk about the healthy lighting and the guideline you guys have come out with, you're coming out now. It's a guideline 24480.
It's called Design Guideline 24480, or for short DG 24480, and it's for the promotion of circadian entrainment for day active workers.
And you're telling them how to do it.
We're giving a prescription. We're providing the research background, and we're also providing 6 discrete steps that a lighting specifier can follow, that a building owner operator could
Implement.
appreciate and implement in order to deliver a healthier space. Yes.
And this is backed up by core studies that show something, or is it causational study? Like, what do you have to say that this is the way to do it?
Well, the documents somewhere between 60 and 70 pages. There's 65 cited research, published research from industry experts. There's very little, if any, conflict in the research. And so the basis of the research provides an understanding for someone who reads, understands, and practices lighting specification design in such a way that if you implement and achieve the goals, which is a circadian stimulus of 0.3, which the document does a great job of defining. And by the way, I have the pleasure of being able to say that I believe you'll have Mark Ray of the Lighting Research Center in your booth shortly, so you can ask him, you can take off on some of the things we're talking about here and grill him and ask him more of the specifics. But the lighting designer and the building owner that implements and achieves a circadian stimulus of 0.3 will be providing greater alertness for the occupant in that space.
Come on, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't. So that's as defined as it gets. Just greater alertness. There's no percentage, nothing like that you can point to, because everybody's going to react differently.
To your point, everyone reacts differently, but what the research will show is that the person that lives in space before a circadian stimulus of 0.3 and the person after, they self-report a greater amount of alertness. They self-report a deeper level of sleep and a healthier sleep. And this is not just, hey, how you feeling today?
Sure.
I slept better last night. And how alert are you? These are practical
What about
research
blood
approaches.
pressure, stethoscopes? Like, is there anything like that, or
Yes.
is it all self-reported?
Melatonin in the body is a simple swipe with a swab in your mouth or blood test. And the interesting thing is you can't fake melatonin. So melatonin is not affected by diet. It's not affected by activity or exercise. It's only affected by light. And it's affected by light passing through your cornea, hitting the back of your eyeball, impacting on the cones and rods and the IRPGs. And
your body squishes out some melatonin.
Or better yet, suppresses it. Because if bright light in the morning and entrainment means that we're going to have a normal melatonin cycle. If the three of us were on a camping trip,
sure,
and we had a flashlight and we had a campfire at night, within a week, the three of us on average are going to be awake with the sun and asleep with the moon. Yeah. And if you ask people today, how's that working for you? They're going to say, my life doesn't look anything like that. I have problems sleeping. I have a lot of activities that I'm behind on, and if we're talking about what all this means, we're talking about the health of society.
Yes.
So UL, along with the Lighting Research Center and Mark Ray, and a task force of people from academia, from industry, manufacturers, from medicine, from lighting designers and practitioners, all ran this task group, this industry task force. And some of the criticism we've taken is that it wasn't ANSI based, so it wasn't overridden by the rules of being an ANSI based process and developing a standard. But the industry is not ready for a standard yet. The industry is not together. In fact, the industry was even in a little bit of disarray about considering someone like a UL coming out with something like a
they didn't
design
like that.
guideline.
They didn't like that.
I'm not certain they knew how to react to UL stepping into the space, because we're known for.
It's kind of it's a bold move.
Yeah.
Would you like? It's a bold move, Greg.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when do you think? So right now it's a guideline. When do you think it'll be? Was policy the word? Sorry,
published.
Published. Yeah,
it was published.
Okay, it's published. But how about when you said we're not ready for it to be set? I forgot what the term was.
Well, I mentioned that the industry was not ready to hear from UL stepping into the space.
Right, but but also as a guideline versus like a policy, like proven,
Oh,
like
right.
here
So
Standard.
standard.
So
Sorry,
as a design guideline, we set a goal to start here, to start at a low level. Make sure that the activities that the lighting designer, the building owner, the electrical contractor affecting a space
Mhm.
to deliver a circadian stimulus of 0.3 would enable the people funding the project to understand that there's a that the research which shows greater alertness in the office, less dependency on stimulants, greater self-reported sleep habits, greater.
And this is with the use of electric light only.
No, it's actually the good thing about the design guideline is it also takes into account you have ambient light coming through windows and skylights.
Okay.
And
So is any of the positive effects coming from the electric light? Are they benign, or are they, or is all the positive effects coming from the windows and the skylights?
Well, let's make it simpler. If we were having this meeting at a picnic table outdoors,
Sure.
we wouldn't have to worry about any of this.
Right.
Architects initially designing the built environment, the envelope of the building, and the fenestration or the windows that allow light in, or the skylights, have a huge job to make sure that the space is adequately prepared to efficiently deliver what we don't really pay for, which is the sun.
Can Greg Ehrich go out with a brochure right now for Premier Lighting and say, increase your alertness of your employees by switching to these light fixtures in your facility? Is that a legit play?
No, because you said switch to these light fixtures, and that would be a concern. So the light fixture has potential to deliver circadian stimulus, but it's the application. It's how it's used.
So tell us
in the
how we do
space.
it. How do we do it?
Well, for example, in this space here, we happen to be in a horrible space to try to deliver circadian stimulus. We're in a convention center. The lights are probably 38 feet above us.
Sure,
They're high bays.
Maybe more.
They're high bays. They're every 15 feet by
Maybe
25 feet,
whatever it is. Yeah.
and it's all vertical light that's designed to put light on this table.
Okay.
And so we can see each other and we can have normal conversations.
Sure.
If you look at the face of our eye, the cornea, you'll notice that there's a shadow cast by our forehead.
Yeah, sure.
You might even, if you think about it, you might even notice that the bridge of our nose has our left eye receiving a different lighting than our right eye,
Sure.
because our nose is in the way. But all of this is to affect that the light that's coming from straight overhead really isn't doing much to.
And nobody
to
walks
pierce our
around
cornea.
like this.
Or like this.
Yeah, exactly. You walk around like this. So horizontal foot candles are very important.
Exactly. So the person concerned about a healthier space is going to consider the windows and the skylights,
Okay.
and take that into account. Then they're going to put lighting to at least deliver the 30, 40, 50 foot candles on the desk as is needed for visual acuity.
Mm-hmm.
But then they need to take into account the non-visual, that light that's hitting the vertical plane of our cornea, and so they'll add layers of light. The light overhead, we're just not gonna get much to our cornea. We're going to get much more reflection off of the desk that we're sitting in front of. It happens to be white. We're standing next to a black curtain, so in an indoor space, you probably wouldn't want to paint your walls black.
Mm-hmm.
In your ceiling, if it's black, for aesthetic reasons, you might paint it white, and you might bounce light indirectly off of it so that the angles are coming to affect the vertical face of the cornea. But you might also take that black wall of the curtain in our booth. You might paint it white, and you might put wall washes on it, because that wall wash is going to deliver a lot of light to our cornea. You might put a desk lamp here, and then you'll have some interest in being effective by increasing the light that's hitting your cornea from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Certainly, it's added. The whole process is additive. So if whatever light you're getting from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, it's all additive. It's not just what happens between 9 and 11, but research shows
that's the main time
that lighting from 9 to 11 is most effective at resetting or in training our circadian rhythm, and then less light in the evening. So that if you hear
is
the
that
term
averaged on, say, someone waking up at 7? So I'm an early riser,
Mhm.
right? So I get up at So sometimes 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning.
It's these exact details that I think are confusing the lighting industry to say we're not ready yet. So, for
So
example,
that's a good question.
it's a great question, but what it points out is that if you're starting with an approach that might someday be a standard, and you are setting a baseline of where do we start, you every time you bring up, but what about? What about the night worker in a hospital? What about the person who's in an office all day, but goes out for an hour at lunch on the beach? As soon as you start bringing up all these specific particulars, you perhaps destroy the opportunity to do what's good for society, which is to take the average worker who arrives at what time in the morning, leaves at what time of the day. 90% of their day life is spent inside of a building.
The exceptions are endless.
They are endless, and I think that's one of the struggles of some of the other approaches to this challenge is they say what about, and we by defining the design guideline 24480 to address promoting entrainment with light for day active workers, and then right from the beginning of the document, which is available online at shopulstandards.com, and it's free to see the document online. You can pay to have a downloadable copy and a printable copy, but I advise people just to go and look at it virtually online.
Sure.
For the person interested in starting to make the shift in the industry, and as a lighting designer, I would want to do it because it's going to make my value to my clients tremendously more valuable. For the building owner, as LEED did in the past, as well Building Institute's doing today.
Okay, so there's way too many lighting shows. Is there way too many standards organizations? Like it seems like there's a lot of different people. You got the IE 789. What is that?
IEEE.
The IEEE 1789.
Oh, I see what you mean. I thought you meant something else.
Like there's so many different. You got LEED, you got green building count. You got that UL, you got IES, and everybody. There's just too many people, right? And Chaga's out there doing something. It's like
I'll make it even worse. I was involved in a consulting project with I think it was the Department of Energy.
Department of Energy, DLC. Like we forgot about those guys.
Back in, I think it was like 2010, and I went to Washington D.C. and sat on a panel who was looking at the 36 different building.
It's Byzantine. Byzantine.
Where LEED, Minergy are 1 and 2. Yeah. There's 36.
Okay, so you know what you know what's interesting is that this is what the story of the Tower of Babel is actually about.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm talking about? This is what the people are like, oh yeah, God taught them to speak different languages. That's so stupid. Of course he did. No, these institutions, like the lighting industry, grows as an institution on its own. And then it has all these different areas and it becomes Byzantine. Is that the right pronunciation? I read that word, Byzantine, Byzantine or whatever, right?
Yeah.
In its structure. And there's just nobody can handle it all because everybody's crossing over into other people's yards. And how do you end all that? Like, that's frustrating for people.
Well, you won't end it. In fact, we were at dinner last night. We were talking about that it's a lot more complex than we think. We talk about the lighting industry. We're inside here, and there's almost 90% of probably everyone that has a booth here is a manufacturer.
Sure.
But what about the lighting rep agency? What about the distributor?
Yeah.
What about the process of a building owner sending out an RFP? And general contractors teaming up with a distribution house and a rep agency. That rep agency has 60 to 70 manufacturers in their line card, and they're producing a bid to support everyone in their line card, and they're dealing with a distributor who will support that. And then let's say someone wins the RFP, it doesn't stop there. Then there's a battle to shift that RFP out of that person's hands to somebody else's hands. So it's way more complex than we would think.
Nobody's having things dictated to them from the top. That's for sure.
Oh, there is no top.
Yeah, there you go.
There's no top. There's that, which is good because
we started from the bottom and now we're here. So I don't know what this is.
Where is here?
Exactly.
Right here.
Adam Lilien, we got to say one thing though. One call does it all.
One call does it all. Brown sales.
Bill Brown Sales, folks, who's sponsoring these live streams, especially with people as fun and as exciting to talk to, is Adam Lilien. Always great, man, to meet up
Oh, I
with
do
you.
have an announcement.
Sure, what's
yeah.
that?
So at Light and Building in
Yep.
Frankfurt, the second week of March,
Yep.
we're inviting Mark Ray and Mariana Figuera over to Frankfurt, and we're holding 2 sessions, a morning session and an afternoon session on March 10th, Tuesday. And we're inviting people to contact us and sign up. And what we're going to be talking about there is, in the first half of the talk, it's about the science of circadian rhythm as it affects what we're talking about today. But the second half is going to be the business of circadian, and we'll challenge them and the audience to have a dialogue where we're getting into what does all this mean for the industry.
Yeah. So he wants to stand in front of someone with a brochure and say, buy these light fixtures
Mhm.
for $2,500 each.
Because Adam said so.
Yeah, because yeah, exactly.
Don't put words in my mouth, guys.
Yeah. One call does it all, folks. BillBrownSales.com. That sounds like a awesome event to attend. We're not going to be there though, but man, that would be a good one.
Maybe if it goes real well, maybe we'll also do it at Light Fair.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So one call does it all. BillBrownSales.com for all you. What are they? The greatest lighting rep of all time?
We've got to be right up there. 60 plus years, all these different lines, everything you need.
Go to BillBrownSales.com. Remember, one call does it all. Thanks for listening. Okay. Are we out, Scott? Thank you.
All right.
We're good.
Did it.
Adam, always a pleasure, my
Good
man.
stuff, guys.
Yeah, it was fun as hell.
Hopefully gave you some ammunition for discussion.
Yeah, I got to track him down now.